Esteemed colleagues, we are starting our work, and it seems that not long ago we just opened the sixth conference and now it's over. The data that we received from the Secretariat, the program of the conference was carried out. All the plenary sessions, panel discussions, all other formats which were in the agenda of our extensive program have been completed. And right now we're going to listen to the short presentations about summarizing the results of the conference and four directions, as you know. Then we're going to discuss the final declaration of our conference. It was drafted before the conference, but it was revised very extensively during the conference, and our editorial commission submitted the final declaration for our review. This final declaration will be the basis for our activity in the next 2 years in this direction. Now, I propose that we start to the implementation of our final page of our agenda. The floor is given to the academician of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the head of the Federal Scientific and Methodological Center for AIDS Prevention, Vadim Pokrovsky. He is the speaker for the conference on science and medicine. Esteemed colleagues, we've had quite an extensive session with many sections devoted to science and medicine. And of course, what was prevailing were the practical issues. How efficient is our prevention? How good is our epidemiological monitoring? How correctly we can arrange treatment? And I would say that it's just more an application. Unfortunately, the final section was on fundamental science, and that's not fair. As the participants of this section said, because we are fundamental science, we shouldn't be holding our session in a small auditorium, so they were really hurt by this. They say that some people say that we can do without vaccine, that we cannot create vaccine. But to oppose this point of view, some results of developing the vaccine preparations were shown. Some of them are developed in Russia, and of course, we can say that we've already made some steps in this direction. And of course, simultaneously, I can say that the fault of our conference is that these types of research were poorly reflected in our conference. So we came to the conclusion that the scientific or the fundamental science research in our country has been carried out, and it should be listened to as often as possible. Speaking about the system in general, the overall character of our work, I would say that the most heated discussion was about how much we have advanced in ending the epidemic of HIV/AIDS, how successful we are, and we couldn't find consensus because there were two opinions prevailing. One was that we already have the instruments in our hands I'm not going to list them, all the mechanisms, all the instruments, all the approaches to prevention of HIV. But if we start using them on the full scale, then we'll be able to end the epidemic and the proliferation of the virus. And the other point of view was that no, those mechanisms, those measures that we've been taking are not enough. And without vaccine or some other preparation preventing the spread of HIV infection that we can use or in a broad scope, we won't be able to end the epidemic. And I'm not going to speak about some practical things like to perfect the treatment, the cure, because a lot has been done towards it. But I think that this discussion, which we've had, it gives us momentum for the next couple of years, and there will be something that we can discuss. Thank you. Thank you, Vadim Valentinich. Dear colleagues, standing against the walls, don't support the wall. It's okay. You don't need to support it. Just come over here because there are free seats in the auditorium. Respect yourself, respect us. We're discussing very serious issues. And in Russia, we are saying that there is no truth while you are standing up. If you want to find the truth, you need to sit down, take the vacant chair. Thank you very much, Vadim. Indeed, I would want to point out that in spite of everything, we had very many foreign speakers. I was present during the panel discussing fundamental studies, and I heard a lot of interesting things there. I think we're moving forward, which is really good to note. And there is a political aspect to our conference. This is the 6th conference, and it's very good that the first place is taken by scientific research, because we understand that without it we cannot resolve our everyday tasks. The next trend of the conference is civil society, and in this respect I will give a floor for the short summary to Agnes Madayan, a member of the Executive Board, the founder of Real World, Real People NGOs, who is the coordinator of the Ethiopian projects. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear friends. I'm very grateful to everyone for conducting such a wonderful conference and summarizing the work of our civil society committee. I would say that the committee worked towards the maximum involvement of the civil society and the key communities into our work. As the result of our work, we have compiled the program committee, 105 people from various countries and regions: Azerbaijan, Armenia, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Estonia. The framework of this program, within the framework, we carried out more than 20 sessions working with key groups and with of various age and gender. For the first time ever during the conference, we dwelled on the problem of prevention of HIV among such a group of population as transgender people. We also dwelt on the successful way of implementation of government programs. We also talked about HIV denialism, because this is a very important thing in our geographic space. We also discussed positive strategies for sex work, strategies for to end the proliferation of HIV in IDUs. We actively discussed the subject of a teenager and prevention of HIV infections among adolescents. We also discussed the role of society in express testing, retainment of patients on their treatment regime, female issues, and so on and so forth. As a result of the work of our civil society committee, we offered to the final document the following proposals to ensure the sustainable funding for the program anti-HIV aid in the programs and in the countries dependent on donor assistance. I'm not going to read out all the proposals. Another proposal was to develop the mechanisms of implementation of the women and young girls programs who are affected by HIV, help to the teenagers and their parents, reducing the price on various preparations, incentivizing the competition and voluntary licensing. Even mandatory licensing mechanisms should be involved. Assistance in implementation of the PrEP programs, which is a new trend for our region. Support to the youth initiatives based on equality. We need to fight the spread of false information about HIV. Also, assistance to the underage on behalf of their parents, from their parents and from their teachers. You'll see our proposals in the final document. I want to thank everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madoyan, for your very comprehensive review of the job done at your session. And based on the report that you have voiced, we have no more remarks or additional comments to the organizers, because as we know, it's really challenging to arrange effective performance by civil society. Therefore, on behalf of civil society, let's say big thanks to our organizers for the very productive opportunity of having very productive dialogue here. Yes, I join in. Thank you very much. Thanks. Big appreciation to all the organizers who have supported this event. Thank you so much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the next session, efficient prevention. And the results of this session will be reported by Marina Semenchenko. Thank you very much. And this is true. Indeed, this conference for the first time reviewed in a dedicated session efficient prevention measures that was split into 9 sessions. At the opening ceremony, at the plenary session, we have heard that prevention is very acute. It's a highly topical issue for key populations and the general population. pre-exposure prevention, and we heard that many speakers have mentioned that different types of preventive measures need to be not something that we will acquire in the future, that need to exist already today. What are the main streams of the work streams in which we worked in this block? New communication technologies, prevention among key population, prevention among migrants, youth. So what has been the key deliverable of every session? Prevention of HIV in East European and Central Asian countries. So in this session, we have listened to some general reviews of different countries and their experience, Azerbaijan and other countries. And what's interesting here that the speakers did not give only general review, but they have focused on what measures are effectively working, what are still lagging behind, and what components are needed for further progress. Another session was devoted to prevention of HIV among key populations. So I have listened to UN and UNAIDS representative. So we have learned about international approaches to HIV prevention among youth, and also several countries have made their reports, and a very interesting report was made by Open Health Institution that reported on the survey data about the efficiency of programs on how to reduce hazard and harm, and these data showed us the economic efficiency and operating efficiency. A very interesting report was prepared by Tajikistan representative of how preventive measures can take place in the trains, and because migrants move on them to the destinations. A Lithuanian report about challenges and low threshold programs was really informative. And we need to say that although preventive programs for key populations are underway, a lot of big lack of political commitment is true for many countries. Prevention at jobs, at workplace. What I want to underscore here is that we have listened to representatives of the governmental non-medical institutions, those institutions that are working in the social sphere aimed at reducing stigmas and discrimination. We listened to the representative of the Ministry of Labor and Russian Railroads, prevention of HIV in the outlook of migration activity. I believe that this issue was touched upon at almost all sessions of this conference, and everyone understands that we have to settle this issue and provide migrants with medical services. And the session has come up with a list of recommendations, including such things as a mechanism that has to be developed in order to provide migrants an access to healthcare services. And there was a mechanism about agreement within CIS countries about mutual reconciliation transactions. Another issue which we believe is very important, improvement of qualification among specialists who provide support to HIV people. There was a very interesting presentation about how to provide support when a person receives positive status, and there is, a lot of co-issues arising there, because the participants of the speakers have also highlighted an interesting report by Mr. Zelinsky, Doctoral Secret and its value. This is important when medical help is being provided. An important report from Kazakhstan about remote learning capabilities. Religious confessions and their role. This session also included, this was an innovative session as compared to the previous conference, because for the first time a regional conference listens to the experience of the largest Christian community, which is a worldwide church council, and other speakers have also presented scientific research about efficiency of primary prevention program, which is aimed at adolescents. They have run through a large sampling over several years. A substantial cohort was monitored, and this is a really full-fledged study whose data has been reported here. And another point, which I believe becomes more and more important in our region, is that this session has also marked some concerning issues with which religious confessions are faced. For example, AIDS denialism among religious communities. Another session, which was devoted to highly active HIV prevention, and very interesting report by Dr. Abdul Karim, who provided general review of all types of approaches of highly active prevention, and he covered French and Italian experience, both pre-exposure prevention and other types of prevention. We also listened to a report from a Belarusian representatives, and we believe that this session shows that highly effective prevention is the future, which needs to become present as soon as possible. Information and communication technologies and their role in terms of preventing HIV. This session proved that we have made significant leap forward in terms of using more advanced technologies. So these are no longer posters on the wall. We are using more and more advanced information technologies which are focused and are aimed at adolescents and younger generation, and they're interesting for them. Another session, prevention for all, new approaches and new technologies. So what new technologies and approaches were covered in this session? Arranging point-of-care tests, rapid tests, in subway or in some dedicated vehicles or in some tents. And the main point there was made that it's not only important to provide access, you need to engage people, social marketing, advertising of that. We also listened to a number of interesting reports about preventive measures for adolescents when a number of workshops is arranged for them that are focused on such topics as friendly, being friends, or love, then some components about HIV prevention are being incorporated in those general topic workshops. Another session, HIV, kids, adolescents, and youth, was a string of very interesting dialogues there. And young people have highlighted 3 points which are barriers for them. So what are the 3 main barriers for them? They want to have broader access in terms of getting knowledge in reproductive health. They want to have more access to tests because there is some age threshold, and access to condoms because due to the age or due to the price, this is a poorly accessible tool for them right away. Also, the participants in this session has said that prevention of HIV among youth is of critical importance. We believe that efficient prevention and new program committee has proved to be effective, and we have reviewed a number of issues that we believe need to be considered at the next conferences too. Thank you very much, Marina. Thank you. I would even make your call to action even stronger, because we are a little bit lagging behind with nominating this as an important work stream, efficient prevention, because the best thing that you can do is to prevent contamination, prevent infection, and therefore we definitely need to move forward in this stream in an accelerated way. We need to find for new technologies, new advanced methods and approaches and practices that are being accumulated in our regions. We are living in a multi-confessional, multinational region, and this is true that we have a lot of nuances, a lot of differences, perhaps even in a greater scale as compared to other parts of the world. But I think that we have over the next 2 years, get closer together and stay focused on this job. Marina, and I would like to say big thanks to you once again for such a detailed insight of what has been performed during the sessions in this block. Another work stream that has been widely discussed is youth, young people. I want to hand over to Yana Panfilova, who is president of Young and Teens Association Teenergizer. Yana, you have the floor. Thank you very much. I would like to invite my colleagues from St. Pete and Novosibirsk. This is Zlata and Yuri. Could you please come up on stage? I will delegate this opportunity to them. Okay, so we have Yana here sitting at the panel, and you're just delegating your words to these young people. Good for you. Okay. Where's Yura? Come up on stage, Yuri. Good evening. My name is Zlata. I'm 18 years old, and as Yana has mentioned, I'm a representative of Teenergizer in St. Petersburg, and I'm HIV positive. I'm happy here to be able to speak at the closing ceremony. I would like to say thanks to organizers for providing the platform at which young people can speak out and know that our opinion will be listened to, will be heard, and will be respected. Yesterday, the whole day 2 was devoted to challenges that are faced by young people. We spoke a lot about educational challenges, and over the whole period of discussion, I never heard about any concrete measures that can be undertaken, and we need to settle this issue right away. When I started having sex, and I had my first sex when I was 13 years old, and I absolutely had no understanding how I can do it in a correct way, in a protected way. Nobody at school told me that how I can protect myself, and I never thought that Russia has an HIV epidemic and that it can touch me. I didn't have a condom at my hand. I didn't have money to buy a condom, and I'm not alone. I'm not the only person with this problem. In 2016, 25,000 young people in my region were HIV infected during a sexual intercourse, and I believe that these are horrible numbers. In 2017, it's happening, and the problem remains on a standstill. Therefore, I am really looking forward to the resolution which will be adapted today, and it's not something which is put on paper. It will not be words on the paper, but it will become a really practical action plan that we will be following. We need to start settling the problem right away, and we should not be thinking about how to remove consequences or mitigate the consequences. I think we need to work about sexual education among kids, because I do not want in the future to have adolescents such like me to get sexually infected because of lack of knowledge. Therefore, this challenge needs to be addressed yesterday, but we have the chance only to do it today. Thank you. Zlata, we will be settling this challenge, but I also want to ask you to contribute to this process. You can do a lot. So you have attended these conferences, you have heard a lot of new things which you haven't known yet about. Therefore, I call you to become a champion of this program so that you can prevent your peers from getting infected. Therefore, we are looking forward to you and other young people like you who are not depressed, who are emotional and who have energy and who are proactive. And we believe that we adults we can really count on you. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Yuri. I'm not from Novosibirsk. I'm from Yekaterinburg. There was like, yes, an error. We have such a big country, you know, that even those who live in the country can sometimes mix up the cities. Thanks, Yura. Keep on. I'm the first adolescent in Russia who has declared his HIV positive status in a public way. And that was something surprise for me. Thank you to the organizers for the opportunity for young people to participate in such a large-scale conference. Well, I decided to announce my HIV positive status when there was a meeting of HIV positive teenagers, and we were like talking with each other and sharing our status. And I was really touched by the story of one girl. Her parents died, and another family wanted to adopt her. Actually, this was her uncle and aunt. And after they learned that she has a positive HIV status, they abandoned her. They sent her back to an orphanage, and that was a shock for me. This is 2017, or maybe several years before that, but this is a true story, which is regretfully happening. And I decided that I want to take a proactive stand. I want to be a representative, a voice for a younger generation, and say that today we have a momentum. You can disclose your HIV status, but do not forget that there are lots of incompetent people in this sphere, and many young people suffer from being stigmatized. HIV positive young people, like HIV is the main problem in their lives. In order to resolve this situation, I believe they need to have more workshops, more trainings, more self-help, or like joint help sessions, more educational events. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm sorry about that. Sorry. Do not be nervous, Yura. We are listening to you. We are listening to you very attentively. Please speak out. I think that we definitely need support from the government in order to implement all the initiatives that are like being developed. And very often people say that young people are our future. I do not agree with that. I think that young people are our present. Therefore, we should not postpone important things. We need to act right away. Thank you.
Yuri, thank you very much. What can I say to you? I'm a person who saw the first patient. Vadim knew him, and I knew him. Our first patient, our first infected person. When we started talking about HIV infection, it was like, let's isolate them, let's sort of set up reservations for them. Of course, there is discrimination. Of course, there is stigma, but it's different now. What is more important now is that even in the realities of our life, even with all the faults of our reality, we are talking about the full socialization of HIV-infected people. They can study, they can work, they can have families, they can live as long as their generation. And we shouldn't say that I'm going to live with it all my life. I'm quite sure that during your lifetime, you'll see a more effective RT preparations and vaccines. So let's look forward to the future. And to you and your teenage friends, I want you to keep remembering that. Work, live, be courageous. Everything will work out and be good. So you are our present, of course, I do believe it. But also you're our future, because you'll have the country after us. So you need to be prepared for that new future, you in particular, because you have certain specifics, but be sure that everything in our country will be good, and a lot can be done by you. Thank you very much. Now, we have another nomination, and that's the International Development Assistance. Here, I would like to give a floor to Yuri Smolensky. Vyacheslav Smolensky, who is responsible for that. And Vyacheslav Smolensky was also responsible for drafting and inclusion of all the changes in the final document. Esteemed members of the panel, the participants of the conference, in the session of assistance to international development, actually we had 5 sessions, and it's considerably more than earlier. First of all, because we didn't have, it's fewer than the sessions previously, because we don't have the sessions of the Global Fund. Unfortunately, we didn't have any sessions related to other multinational donors, which used to provide assistance in our region. We couldn't invite large-scale bilateral donors who also work in some of the countries in this region, supporting the prevention and treatment. But it shows that the problem of HIV, implementation of measures, is getting more and more governmental as far as the funding is concerned. And a lot of internal financing and funding is engaged to end the HIV epidemic, and the role of the international donors has been reduced. Besides, we have seen the growth of the internal donor potential in the region. Some of the programs were funded by the government of the Russian Federation and also Rospotrebnadzor in 6 countries in the region. So this program has been implementing for 6 years now, and during this session we need to make a note that all the partners discussed, the representatives of this program, they support this program, they provide assistance, and we see the shift lately, proceeding from the discussions that we had. We are going away from the traditional technical help, like training, equipment, and other types. The countries moved to international development, to international assistance and joint programs to prevent HIV. It is a joint effort, not only just funding by donors, but there are joint programs which are implemented jointly. In this region, since we are speaking and we've been discussing it for a long time, we have the uniform geographic space, and our joint work, our cooperation, and the internal potential of donors in the region should be further engaged. We've been talking a long time about sustainability. We had a separate session on sustainability, which is a very important mechanism. And of course, we don't always have the money that we need. But nevertheless, there is tools and mechanisms of sustainability, even non-traditional, attracting the money of the private sector, banks, government co-funding, or the so-called non-financial support of these programs. They are taking place, and we have this experience even in our region, not as broad as we would like to see it. Then the implementation of the international programs. We also engage the civil society. We involve the NGOs into these programs. And again, here we've been discussing a lot all the mechanisms that need to be perfected in order to actively engage the NGOs in government funding and in implementing, in using the funds of bilateral donors. There is a lot to be discussed here, but the trend of international development is going down. But this is to be expected. I've already mentioned why. But the assistance to international development, this concept will survive because we are talking about ending the HIV epidemic, and this is interstate cooperation, mutual assistance, mutual help, especially for neighbor countries. They might expect help from countries which are adjacent, because this is because our problems, they do not stay in one country. Migration makes them flow from country to country, and that's why the proposal which we proposed in order to promote international cooperation, these proposals are in the final document. They were put into the document for the countries of the region. And Gennady has already mentioned that we have drafted the final document. A few words about what we did during the conference. You remember that on day one, we told you about the draft of the document, and all of you had an opportunity to submit your proposals. It was like prevention of HIV in migrants, support of women and young girls living with HIV, information campaigns. We had some proposals from business as the result of the business summit during the conference. There were some access issues, new technologies, new regimens of treatment, prevention, PrEP, also targeted programs. There were proposals for targeting various sections of population. There were detailed and very short proposals, so the editorial team worked on summarizing them, on taking into account all the proposals that we received. We worked very hard. We've been working from last night and until this moment. I want to thank Roman Galevich, Grigori Vergus, who worked also for the editorial committee, other colleagues. They paid a lot of attention to this document, and finally, the editorial committee, together with the representatives of all the directions of activities, it was coordinated and agreed upon. Thank you very much. Vyacheslav? The fact of our conference in itself is already assistance to international development. So the document that we have been reviewing, it contains all the trends and directions of work that we discussed. I think that we managed to compile all your wishes in this document, and if today we approve this document, then for us it will be the program of activities, of actions for the next 2 years until the next conference. And the next conference will show how we fulfill the programs that were set up by the United Nations, by UNAIDS, our government. I wanted to focus on one topic only. In the draft document that we are going to adopt, it is written that the next venue, the venue for the next conference, should be Moscow. Are there any objections? Thank you. Thank you for your support. So now I propose that we should vote. Let's vote. Who is for adopting this document as the basis of the final document? We're going to do some editorial changes. We're just finalizing the document without changing everything. We're going to put it up on our website. We're going to share it with all the governments who send the delegations to this conference, and we'll start implementing this document. Do you have any objections? Is anyone against this document? Or can we adopt this document and the final document of our session? Gennady, do you think people have it? Do you think that people read this document? Vadim, we're doing everything in compliance with the regulations. You know, I haven't seen the document. That's why I'm asking. I can just switch off the mic and tell you something. Dear colleagues, I say that we wish to take this final document as the basis for the final document, because you can stay another day, read this document attentively. We'll have another session of discussion. And that was the way it was always done. That's why someone who is objecting to me now knows about it very well. You have the time and opportunity to work on it for a week if you wish. So if you have objections, believe me, all your wishes, all your proposals were taken into account. So do you want to show how clever you are about this document? No. Then let's move forward. This document will be our guideline during the international conference, HIV and AIDS conference, which is going to be held in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and the organizing committee of this country informally treats our Russian language segment of the global conference. And during our previous session and during our current session, we have the most numerous delegation participating in the work of this conference. Thank you. We listened to a detailed presentation of Peter Rice, who it was a scientific presentation with the analysis of the activities not only in your country but in the global region. It was very useful. It was a very useful input. You did a lot of useful work to enhance the status of our scientific section, because it was a deeply scientific, academic presentation. And on behalf of our Russian-speaking part of the conference, we're very grateful to your organizing committee, to your government, for the conference that is going to be held in 2018. And we would like to give floor on behalf of the government and on the organizing committee. We would like to give floor to René van der Wals. Esteemed Chairman, thank you very much for these words. If you allow me, I'll try to speak Russian, because Dr. Rice is already on his way back to Amsterdam. Yeah, he has a lot of work. I know he is in preparation for a huge conference. So he's on his way back home and to the conference of 2018. And this is a global conference. And for him, it means a lot of work, of course. And for those who organize the conference, it will be held in July this year. And we've been working very hard together with him, because he is a co-chair of this conference in the Netherlands. We've been working with him on establishing connections between the countries of EECAAC. And we wanted to have as many representatives from EECAAC countries in Amsterdam as possible, because we consider that the exchange of experience, special academic experience of various countries, various states, that is very good. I'm sorry for my Russian, but you speak very well. But I'm going to speak Russian, because during the conference in Amsterdam, there will be translation into Russian, lots of different sessions, and I think that accessibility, linguistic accessibility should be broad. We've been working, and Dr. Rice, among others, before the opening of this conference, Dr. Rice explained how we predict a large number of the participants from EECAAC countries. I will be happy to welcome you in the Netherlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure that all of us, all the delegates in this conference will be able to get into the Netherlands. Yes, our country is quite small, but I'm absolutely convinced that the delegation that will be representing our countries will be able to get to the conference. And I see that so we are moving this conference, so we're closing this conference soon. Therefore, we will close it, and you are the ones to pick it up. You are the ones to start it, and we will be wishing you good luck to your conference, which will be coming in the near future. And our conference was delivering great results to all the participants. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Dear ladies and gentlemen, so in the final part of our closing ceremony, I would like to hand over to representatives of all co-chairs, of our conference. First of all, the representative of the Federal Service on Surveillance of Human Rights Protection and Well-being. This is Irina Bragina. She is deputy head of the Federal Service, and as you know, the Federal Service has undertaken a large amount of the job which was associated with content preparation. So, Irina, I hand over to you. Thank you very much, dear chairman, dear guests, and dear ladies and gentlemen. Before I will speak out on behalf of Rospotrebnadzor, I would like to read out words that we have received just several minutes ago. This is an important words from the president of Foundation of Social Initiatives and chairman of the All Russian Initiatives Stop AIDS and Stop HIV, Svetlana Medvedeva, to all the participants and organizers of the 6th International Conference on AIDS in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Dear friends, I'm glad to welcome you at the 6th conference, and today healthcare development is in the focus of governments in many countries. However, there are still a lot of social and economical issues which require a lot of attention on behalf of the government and NGOs. One of them is, of course, global spread of HIV, specifically among young people. In order to bring more attention to the growing rate of HIV spread, the Foundation of Social and Cultural Initiatives, supported by the Healthcare Ministry and Education Ministry, Communications Ministry, and other government authorities, is running an all-Russian campaign, Stop AIDS, Stop HIV, twice a year. As part of this campaign across Russia, we do also arrange a number of educational events, workshops, psychological trainings, anonymous tests, student flash mobs, and it's important to highlight here that with every year this campaign is enjoying bigger and bigger demand. 411 TV channels have devoted some programs and a number of videos for them. More than 5 million printed materials have been distributed. According to the Healthcare Ministry of Russia, thanks to powerful information support, more than 34 million Russian citizens have undertaken HIV tests. Between 14th to 20th May, we're going to host the 5th campaign, Stop HIV and Stop AIDS, and I count that this will support our proactive effort in terms of information and raising awareness. Dear friends, 6th International Conference on HIV in Eastern Europe and Central Asia has been very productive and fruitful, and I hope that the recommendations that the conference has developed will be practically implemented and will contribute greatly to our overall global response. Chairman of the Foundation, Svetlana Medvedeva. And if I may, I want to add to it. So the 6th International Conference is coming to an end. That it was supported by the Russian Federation, and it became record-hitting because more than 3,000 delegates from 63 countries from around the world have attended the conference and were representing their countries, were speaking out and sharing their experience and scientific achievements. This year, the number of work streams has increased, and discussions were performed in a number of different topics and blocks that has been reported by our colleagues. I should also highlight a proactive involvement of business and arrangement of business summit that, on top of key issues, also discussed pharmaceutical market development, medication localization, and usage of other mechanisms that can help us obtain more affordable treatment. And over these 3 days, we have seen events at different platforms, at different sites. So it has been already mentioned. We have learned about advanced developments in the area of treatment and response to HIV. Russia remains committed to providing response to HIV and will continue being a responsible partner in terms of reducing burden of infectious diseases, not only in the national level, but also in the global level. Let me say big thanks for organization of this event, to co-chair the first Deputy of State Chairman, Stadium Education and Science Committee, member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Gennady Onищенко. I would also like to say thanks to Acting Deputy Executive Director, Program Branch UNAIDS. I would like to say thanks to Michel Sidibé, who is Under Secretary General, United Nations and Executive Director. Thank you very much to all the speakers, to all the participants in plenary sections. Big thanks to international speakers and international participants. Thanks to the organizing committee of the conference, and we sincerely hope that being here in Moscow will have good memories for you. So, I would like to give the floor now to Nime Saldana, who will speak on behalf of United Nations. Thank you very much, Gennady. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I do not want to reiterate everything that has been mentioned at the closing session. Just a couple of words about this from the point of UNAIDS. First of all, words of appreciation to everyone over those 3 days, and not only 3 days, but during the 2 years of effort. So it required a lot of dedication and a lot of commitment to involve 3,000 delegates. Thank you very much to the government of Russian Federation and Rospotrebnadzor. We were really glad to work with you, with the management of Rospotrebnadzor, and with you, Gennady Grigorovich, and those program tracks, which are so interesting. We had fruitful dialogue and offline and online, face-to-face. So organizing committee was doing a superb job, perfect job. So thousands of documents have been read, edited, and printed. But over all this period, we were able to prepare a very large, full-fledged program with a big number of delegates, interesting combination of speakers and experts, and the content, which was very rich. I also would like to say thank you to the sponsor of the conference, without whom commercial partners of the conference, without whom perhaps, from my personal viewpoint, this conference would not have been so good. There are diagnostic firms, but there are also socially responsible businesses, and I'm so glad to point out it. Another big thanks to Secretariat of this conference, Speed Infosvязь. Alena, thank you. I know that you haven't had a good sleep for a week or so, and unless your clear-cut leading role and commitment to all the liabilities and responsibilities that you have made, this conference would not be so great. And over last 3 days, the scale that we had here, the content is very interesting, and it shows the high quality of preparation of this conference. And in spite of all the limitations and constraints that exist in the world, in Eastern Europe or Central Asia, I believe that we managed to bring together a record-hitting amount of delegates and bring them together to this venue and have this conference. I think that this association or this coming together should not be the ending point. I believe that, and there are 2 years and 9 months before the end of the time frame to fulfill on the goals that all the countries have committed to. So it's not only 90 until 2020, but also the reduction of new cases of HIV by 2020. So I on behalf of UNAIDS, I call you to action to use all the advancements and beautiful civil and social proposals that were voiced here. And we should not think that it should be implemented sometime in the future. We need to start doing it now and use the momentum that has been built up over these 3 days, that when we will be back to our offices, we need to continue using this momentum and start rolling out the program. So I call you to action. UNAIDS is not only secretariat activity, it's 11 co-sponsors who are supporting UNAIDS programs. So I would like to say the words of appreciation to you. Thanks for coming here to Moscow, and also thank you very much. We would appreciate that you are working in a highly intensive mode. On behalf of UNAIDS Secretariat, regardless of any challenges that we are faced with or across the globe, we remain committed to being responsible in terms of fulfilling on our partnerships, because we remember of hundreds and thousands of people who have already died due to HIV-associated diseases in Central Asia and Eastern Europe, and many, many thousands who are living with HIV. Thank you for your partnership. Dear friends, over these 3 days, we are so different, we're so diverse, but we are united by one idea, the idea to eradicate socially challenging infection. And I believe that we came here having different opinions, having different stands, but I'm convinced that we have enriched each other with our knowledge, with our expertise, with our emotion and ambition. So the 6th conference is coming to an end. And I remember the very first one, and from the one conference to another, I see improvements. I see that we are progressing. I see that we are analyzing the situation in a very accurate way. We are leaving behind some obsolete and aged techniques which are no longer applicable to the present picture. We're implementing and delivering on new tasks. Therefore, I believe that the value of this conference is undoubtedly here. It's undoubtedly high. We in no way are finalizing the conference. We will start working on the document that will be the result of the conference. And to all the young people who were speaking out, to scientists, scholars and practitioners, clinicians, social workers, and other people who are interested in that, those who are HIV positive, or I would like to wish all of you the best of success. And I always say that a road of 1,000 steps starts with the very first step. And God bless you. I know we have different gods, but I'm sure that we will overcome this challenge. We will become stronger. And good luck to all of you. See you next time. To conclude, after we close here, there will be a gala concert that will start at 7 p.m. sharp. So you see how it is good to